Okay, so next thing that I wanted to talk about, just very, very, very briefly, is the concept of planning trips. Something that I personally really love because I work at my other job a lot, which doesn't give me a ton, and I have a wonderful family, both of which don't give me like a ton of time to just go out and go on trips constantly. But something that's really, really nice is that in the modern era, and even like, 10, 20 years ago, you can research trips and have multi-stage goals for not just like the short term, but like the long term future in terms of like adventures that you really, really want to go on. Um, One of the things that's really cool too is that in the internet age, there's some really good what are called beta sites where they will give you advice on how to do stuff. You can start researching the route and looking at things in the area and just sort of getting familiar with places that you want to go. Two sites that I'm going to recommend that you guys check out. First one is Mountain Project. If you go to mountainproject.com, you can find route descriptions. It's got you can search by difficulty, you can search by state, and that's something that I do. Like even when I'm not like planning some crazy epic adventure, what I will oftentimes do is say, "Hey, I really want to, I like if I have a business trip and I'm flying to Kentucky, or if I have a business trip and I'm flying to, Seattle or wherever, what I'll do is I'll say, all right, I'm landing here. What is an awesome adventure in this area? And the three things that I would recommend checking out. First off, are looking at Mountain Project, which is really great for climbing and for mountaineering stuff. Second place is RopeWiki. RopeWiki is it's like a fantastic website that is aimed at giving canyoneering information to people, so you can look things up. And again, you can refamiliarize yourself with the rating system. So say like I want to find something where it's got a ton of swimming and cliff jumping that is near me that will only take 4 to 8 hours or something. And again, all of this stuff is stuff that you should do once you're once you're confident and competent in terms of like leading your own trips. But even before you get to that point, it doesn't hurt to start planning things and look at stuff that would really be fun in your area. So again, RopeWiki is another fantastic resource. And the thing with Mountain Project too is you can search for like climbs that are a certain difficulty or a certain length. Like you can search for multi-pitch climbs or boulders or top roping only and stuff like that. Um, the last place that I often check out is caving resources. Generally speaking, there will be what's called grottos, which are like a grotto is like a group, a caving group that's broken down by region. So like there's a Southern California grotto. It meets in Pasadena. But when I went for work out a while ago and did this thing out in near Bowling Green in Kentucky, and so we hit up the Louisville Grotto out there, and then found and got access to the caves using connections that way. But again, it's one of those things where even if, say, you're stuck in your house, you're looking at around and saying like, hey, I don't really have like a ton of stuff to do, but I would really, really love to get outside. You can start planning your next trip. And again, the other thing too is at Hangar 18, something that would sort of consistently happen over the years is that people would come in, get into climbing, buy like a ton of random climbing gear, then sort of get over it, and then sort of like lose interest and sell things that they never even use or use like one time. Once you identify good goals, you can slowly start building your rack towards that. So let's say that you're like, okay, I really like climbing. First thing that you should buy is shoes, a harness, and a chalk bag, because you use that for pretty much everything. Those are pieces of equipment that don't really go bad. After you buy shoes and a harness and a chalk bag, the next thing that you should buy is a rope and a rope bag. You always want to get a rope bag with your rope, because otherwise your rope will get worn out like 50 times faster. And you also want to get a bunch of locking carabiners, some slings, and I'd say like usually about 15 to 20 quick draws is a good amount that'll get you, you'll be good to go for almost any route. in at least in this area. It's a little bit different if you're like in Virginia or something in Red River Gorge, because there's some places throughout the country that are a little bit longer and have more bolts. But for the most part, 15 to 20 bolts is like the most you'll need for any climb. After you get that, something that's just a great staple to have is like a really good compact first aid kit. And you also want to have a good, reliable headlamp and a good climbing pack, and then like a CamelBak or a small water bladder of some kind, so you can drink throughout the day. If you're going to be doing longer climbing stuff, then again you can get like a bullet pack too, like some like little packs that you can use while actually on the wall for snacks and emergency gear and so forth. For canyoneering, again, one of the first things that you need is a harness. You want to get a wrap device. So an ATS is a good one, a Critter is a good one, and a locking carabiner to go with it. I would recommend getting a locking carabiner that is either twist lock or tri-action, so that you can unlock it with like just quickly with one hand, and have it lock back up, just in case you're doing things that you need to manipulate that while you're in high water flow and you can't see what's going on. The other thing too is screw gates. If you get like a ton of grit and dirt and stuff in them, they break down faster. So just word to the wise on that. And especially if you're doing anything at ice, you don't want to use screw gates, because the water will actually get into, so like if you're in Zion, you'll jump in, you break through the ice, water gets inside the threads of the screw gate, you get out, and then it'll actually freeze and make it really, really difficult to lock or unlock the carabiner. But anyway, so so first things, get a harness and a wrap device, and then with canyoneering, even more than climbing, you want to get a helmet right away also, just because it's just a good thing to do. And then you want to get a canyoneering rope and rope protection, and then a bunch of locking carabiners, and then an ascending kit to go along with all of that. And then again, a good canyoneering pack that can drain water, and headlamp, and some waterproof dry bags to put things in, like food or first aid or whatever. But again, you can look at this stuff and say, all right, this is something that I would love to do this year. This is something that I'd love to do next year. And this is something that I'd love to do at some point in my life. Like, some of the coolest climbing trips that I've ever done were things where I was looking at them like years in advance, and I'm like, if I ever have the opportunity, this would just be so cool, and like I went on a deep water soloing trip in Thailand where like it made me happy that was going to happen for like a year before we went. I did this really long multi-pitch climbing trip to Mexico, and again, it was like one of those things where it gave me this goal to work toward. I was training for it. I was working on fitness. I was building up my rack and just getting specific gear for it. I was researching the climb. And it's like a really great thing, because it lets by having something that you've got like long-term goals with, and by researching stuff that's like really cool places to go, it allows you to have get the enjoyment of working towards and progressing towards this like awesome, very, very tangible goal for a really long time. And like I said, especially at points like now, I think people oftentimes need that stuff. But anyway, so again, Mountain Project, Rope Wiki, search for a local grotto, and you can look at the National Speleological Society for information on caving stuff near you. Cavers are like very strange and secretive people, but a nice group overall. And that's it.